to the August 18th, 2020 City Council meeting for Ogden City. Please let the record reflect that all council members are present. Just looking, I know that Council Member Nadolski had asked to be excused. So I think everybody else is here besides that. Great, and I will just read the chair's determination very quickly. So this is the council chair determination to hold electronic meetings without anchor location. In accordance with Utah Code 52.3.207.4, I have determined that conducting meetings of the Ogden City Council with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present due to the infectious nature and potentially dangerous health effects of contracting the COVID-19 virus. This determination is based on the following. Utah has been in a declared state of emergency due to the novel coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 since March 6, 2020. The World Health Organization has characterized the spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, has determined that COVID-19 is easily spread between or among people who are in close contact with each other through airborne respiratory droplets and may be spread by people who are non-symptomatic. Federal, state, and local health authorities recommend limiting public gatherings, wearing face masks, and following social distancing guidelines, that those exposed to individuals experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 self-quarantine for 14 days, and that individuals experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 self-isolate to prevent and control the continuing spread of COVID-19. Physical distancing measures are difficult to set up and maintain in the City Council chambers. Based on the foregoing, all public meetings, including work sessions and meetings of the Redevelopment Agency, will be held electronically through August 31st, 2020. Information on how to connect to the electronic public meetings will be posted on each agenda. The public may comment during the electronic meeting, during public hearings, or provide public input on items designated for input on the agenda. General public comments will also be taken during regular meetings. Written public comments may also be submitted through the following electronic options: by telephonic message at 801-629-8158, public comment submission form at ogdencity.com/public input, or email at citycouncil@ogdencity.com. This statement was issued and became effective on August 3rd, 2020. Thank you for bearing with me for that. So now I invite Vice Chair Blair to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, thank you. We ask all those that are with us to join us in sharing the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll start it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now please join me in a moment of silence. Thanks, everyone. So now I'm really excited to invite Councilmember White to read the Women's Equality Day proclamation and to welcome Terry McCullough from the League of Women Voters to accept.
So before we get started, Chair, since Councilmember Lopez did his little sharing, I'm going to do mine. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah, yes, very nice.
So, hey, today is I am super excited since this is the 100-year anniversary of the adoption of the 19th Amendment, which grants women the right to vote. So I'm really excited to be able to do this. So today we are declaring August 26th, 2020, Women's Equality Day in Ogden City. Whereas historically in the United States, women have been treated as second-class citizens and have not been given the same opportunities and privileges as men. Women's Equality Day commemorates the efforts of women's rights activists, celebrates the extraordinary achievements of women, and is a reminder of the unique daily struggles they face. And whereas designated by Congress in 1971 and celebrated annually on August 26th, Women's Equality Day honors women and their continuing efforts towards equality. It celebrates the hard-fought victory of women's suffrage movement and the immense impact it has had across the United States and in our community. And whereas Women's Equality Day commemorates the anniversary of the adoption of the 19th Amendment to the US Constitution, passed by Congress on June 4th, 1919, and ratified 100 years ago on August 18th, 1920, and the 19th Amendment granted women's constitutional right to vote. The 19th Amendment empowered women to have their voices heard and was a major victory in the women's rights movement. This milestone came after decades of fighting and protests for suffrage. And whereas, despite the progress we have made, the fight to advance women's equality continues today. The wage gap between men and women continues to have long-term economic impacts, and gender-based discrimination still impacts workplaces. As a community, we must continue the ongoing fight for equality. And whereas for generations, women have played a crucial role in American politics and have shaped the development of Ogden City, we honor and celebrate the contributions and achievements of great women of Ogden City and their importance to our democracy. Now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim August 26, 2020, Women's Equality Day in Ogden City. We express our sincere appreciation for the great women of our community and their engagement and contribution to Ogden's political spectrum. We recognize the efforts of the League of the Women Voters and all others within our community who celebrate women and promote equality in our society. And Chair, I'd like to declare this day and pass and adopt this proclamation.
Second.
So we have no, yeah, that's okay. Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember White and a second by Vice Chair Blair to adopt this proclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's good. Thanks again so much. And Terry,
Oh, there she is.
I'm here.
hi, welcome Terry, and thanks so much for all the work that you and the League of Women Voters do in our communities.
Thank you. I appreciate what you guys do. As most of you know, the League of Women Voters was started by Carrie Chapman Catt about 100 years ago to make sure that women voters were heard and educated about issues. It came out of the same women's suffrage movement that you are celebrating, and we are one of the organizations that's actually remained relevant over the years and continues to grow. The Weber League will continue to register voters, present issues, and work hard to represent the great citizens of Weber County. Thank you so much for recognizing the suffrage movement, which also recognizes the Weber League.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I hadn't realized that it was 100 years old exactly as well.
Exactly 100.
Amazing. Any other comments from other council members? Normally we would have done a big clap and shook your hand and done a picture.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Yeah, we just really appreciate you being willing to come, and we'll make sure that you guys get the proclamation.
You guys are awesome and awesome supporters, all of you, women and men alike.
Thanks, Terry, for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, what a great couple of weeks here. Up next on the agenda is the common consent. So we have two items there, the Planning Commission reappointments, as well as the proposed street vacation of about approximately 3317 South Monroe Boulevard. Any questions or comments on those items? it's a public hearing, I should say, for that item, the last one.
Chair, I'd make a motion then that we approve the common consent agenda and also to set that public hearing on item 4B for September 1st.
Thank you.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens, and this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That passes. Now we have a public hearing. It's the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget amendment. And this is to allocate $30,000 for Spanish language translation services. Looks like we're inviting Lisa to talk with us about that. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. The public hearing is for your consideration of proposed ordinance 2020-31 to amend the fiscal year 2021 budget by $305,000. And let me put up. Okay, the proposed ordinance for $305,000 is to carry forward money left over from fiscal year, a budget left over from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 21. In fiscal year 20, the City Council set aside $528,925 for strategic plan projects. During fiscal year 20, $323,925 of this budget had been appropriated for planning notices, boxing equipment, youth comp sports equipment, sidewalks, street lights, and traffic control. That left $305,000 in this budget, which we are asking council to carry forward to fiscal year 21 and then reappropriate out of the strategic plan projects to translation services. The translation services budget will be managed through the Diversity Affairs Office to more efficiently communicate with Ogden's Spanish-speaking residents. Do you have any questions regarding this budget action?
Well, I don't have any questions, Lisa, but I do want to just send my appreciation to the Diversity Commission for helping us to, kind of research and think about how we might best do the translation services. And so we tried to follow their recommendations and do it in this way. So I really appreciate that. Any other questions from council members? Okay, well, I'd be happy to, this is a public hearing. I apologize. Brandon, if you wouldn't mind helping me explain to folks if they'd like to participate.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, for those of you who are joining us using the Zoom app, you can participate in this public hearing by using the raise hand feature found in the bottom of your screen. Just click on that and you will be added to the queue and you will be allotted 3 minutes to address the council about this issue.
Not seeing any hands raised. Would anybody like to propose closing the public hearing?
Chair, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Motion from Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember White to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Be happy to entertain any motions about this item unless there's more discussion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2020-31.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hyer, a second by Councilmember White to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-31. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Hyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. Now I'm inviting Greg Montgomery, Planning Manager, to talk with us a little bit about reports from the Planning Commission. The first item is proposed text amendments for accessory apartments in the Central Business District, or zone. Yeah, Central Business District zone.
I'm getting there, sorry.
No worries.
Okay. As you mentioned, Chair, this is a consideration to look at accessory apartments and the present provisions for them in the CBD zone. Presently, we allow accessory apartments when they're above a storefront. But we do have many single-story buildings in the CBD who would not be able to take advantage of the present regulation because there's not a second floor. As we looked and discussed with the commission the reasons for the changes, we noted not only the mixture of building types in the CBD, but allowing options for reusing these buildings if some spaces that may be vacant, may not be fully utilized, and that having that 24-hour presence would be something important. We discussed with the commission the general plan, that it talks of mixed uses being both horizontal and vertically. And in this case, that horizontal mixed use could be front to back. And that this new development would embody a sound urban form. And that is that the downtown is a 24-hour presence of both jobs, services, and living. One of the things we talked about does creating another use in a building limit the district or the area from becoming additional, to be developed additionally in terms of larger buildings in the future. We really didn't think so as we discussed this, because at some point when the economics make sense to go vertical, then that would take place. But if they're not there, it'd be better to have a multi-use taking place in the building than a vacant portion be in the building. That it would be inconsistent with the things we want to have happen in downtown. So we felt that the encouragement of living downtown is important, and that this helps encourage that. It would still support the new development that could take place, both in multi-story buildings, but also utilizing existing buildings. And the definition, because I know this question came up in the work session, is only for accessory buildings and commercial buildings. We have some buildings in the downtown that are single-family dwellings that have been converted to commercial uses, and maybe a single family still in that home. But those are non-conforming uses that have a whole different process to go through than would a commercial building who's using an accessory portion for apartment living. The Planning Commission recommended 8-1 to approve this ordinance revision to allow the accessory apartments in the single-story commercial buildings. The one dissenting vote was concerned about impact of additional parking required for the living. One of the things that we are hoping to achieve, and we notice in other downtowns, is sometimes that parking actually decreases with the living units, and the demand for parking and the use timing and the timing of usage, for example, retail during the day, dwelling at night, seems to balance out without having additional parking being required. Now, I know Councilmember White asked a question and I gave an answer in the work session. I did some research and I got to backtrack because now I can say I don't know. I pulled up some other properties in the downtown where there are dwelling units and retail. And while what I mentioned on 25th Street is still true in terms of how the county assesses the taxes, what I found on Washington is those areas that I know have a unit above them, those buildings are charged at 78% of the tax valuation, not 55 or not 100, they're at 78. So I am not sure now of how that is taking place and why there are different tax assessments for the same type of activity in the same downtown area. So now I guess I can say I don't know.
So is that, like, if it's 78%, then Greg, is it like, so it's not 55, so it's kind of in the middle. So they just charge them a middle ground?
Yeah, and I don't know what the rationale behind that is because on 25th Street, they're charged at 100% valuation.
Hmm.
And then
That is
those that
a
are,
problem.
yeah, those that are condos, as I mentioned, are 55% for the condo space, and that's residential, and 100% for the retail space. So I've found we got 3 different tax structures.
I just have a quick, so how would we be able to find that out? And I mean, do you find that, I guess my
I think
question,
we call the county assessor and find out why they had those different valuations.
yeah, and do we see this as a huge issue? Or, I mean, I don't know how many people have asked to put, I think what you're trying to do is clean up the ordinance, which I appreciate. I just wondered, what do you see that this is going to make a major impact or not?
I don't see it being a major impact, again, because those single-story buildings, it really will be more of a minimal space. Maybe it's 400 square feet up to 600 square feet, if that much. And I don't see that as a major impact and change of the tax valuation. But again, I don't know the right answer because I see it done 3 different ways in the downtown.
Yeah, because I also wonder, I mean, I'm not an expert or don't know anything about this whatsoever, so I don't know why I'm talking, but I wonder too if it raises the value by actually using that space in some way, you know, if that kind of splits the difference. If the property originally, you know, if you get 100% of the tax value in the beginning, but that value is much lower because that space isn't utilized. I don't know. I'm just kind of making it up, but.
Yeah, that's what I'll have to find out from the assessor. I don't know the answer.
Any other questions or comments from Greg?
Sure. I have one question for Greg. Would like to go to parking. I know in a lot of areas that we have a certain amount of spaces designated for different units. And this is brought up, I guess, with the no vote. What is the actual space per unit that we're allowing for parking in that area?
Well, under this provision of accessory apartment, it's 1 additional stall for the apartment.
Okay.
That's what the provision now reads.
Okay. And that also allows for commercial. If they have a commercial entity, there's enough parking with that, or will it?
Yeah, that they would have to have their commercial parking and then add 1 more stall.
More stall. So will we have to look at maybe increasing parking in this area for that?
Right now, it's kind of a mixture. Many of the businesses don't have any parking at all for the business itself of these single-story buildings. Some do have areas in the back. And like I said, those areas in the back seem to allow, they may have an employee parking area, but then when the employees go home, that parking space is still available. And the owner of the building could have that into that lease agreement, that is their stall in the evening. If they want to find a place in the day, they got to look around. because
Okay.
that is used for the employees. That is a tenant-owner relationship that we feel, as long as they provide what is required or what they have available, that should be sufficient.
Okay. So with the construction of Wonder Bread property, would we look at maybe adding parking to 25th Street in response to what we're looking at today?
Well, Wonder Bread itself will be, because that is new construction, that's not a reuse. They'll
Okay.
be providing its own parking and then some additional parking.
All right.
Any other questions? Great, well then I'm happy to consider taking some public input on this item. Brandon, would you mind explaining to folks how they might participate?
Not at all. Again, those of you who are joining us via Zoom are able to participate in the this public input period. You can do so by using the raise hand feature found at the bottom of your app, and that will put you in the queue. And we would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. And again, this is on the current topic at hand. So with that, we will start with Angel Castillo. The time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Good evening, council members. My name is Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd just like to express my full support for this particular project. As you know, we have housing challenges, and especially affordable housing challenges, and allowing businesses to provide smaller square footage will equal lower rents. And I fully support Greg's perspective on the parking situation. He's studied under a lot of people that understand parking and how the needs are changing. So I fully support this project, and I hope you vote to approve it. Thank you.
Thanks, Angel. Any other public comment?
There seeing no movement, I suggest that we close the public hearing.
Sure, is this an actual public hearing? I guess that's my question. I apologize. I'm always looking at these. Is it?
It's not a public hearing. You don't need to close
Yeah,
it.
it's input, but I do appreciate that, Councilmember White, because sometimes I need that.
Oh, yeah, close it. No, just-
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't see any other hands, so we'll go ahead and close the public input. And now I'd be happy to entertain any motions.
Chair, I have a quick question. I am asking this, I don't know what other council members would suggest, but I would like to know that answer. And the answer to the taxing, I would suggest that we move this and table this until a time certain that we can have an answer to the taxation question. I don't know if anybody's interested in doing that.
Sure, and Glenn, would you like to remind us, the tabling, do we have to set a specific date certain, or I apologize, I don't have that memorized.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, if the council decides to table it, we would need to come up with a date to which you could table that. If the other option is to extend it, which would require some other things to do, but you wouldn't need a specific date for that.
Well, I have a question about this. If approving it or not approving it will have anything to do with this tax rate. I mean, that might be a separate issue that we address at a separate, time. Is this going to change that at all?
I guess in my thinking, it might change some people's votes.
I think it would change the tax rate, and therefore, I guess I would like to know the impact. I'm fully supportive of doing this. I just like to know the impact to Ogden if the tax rate's going to change. So that's, I mean, I'm fully supportive of doing the proposed text amendment. I just would like to know the answer. I don't know that it changes a vote, but.
Yeah. Any other comments about that from other council members?
Chair Jaburka, can I ask a clarifying question, please?
Please.
And this is for Marcia. When she says she wants the full impact, I guess I don't know exactly what that means. Are you wanting a dollar amount of an impact, or you just want a general, what it does to the tax rate?
So because this is in the CBD zone, you know, we already have, you know, we already struggle with extra increment there and those kind of things. And I just want, you know, I guess I'm curious if it's 100 commercial buildings that we're looking at all of a sudden was at that tax rate at 100 and now it has to be at 55% or 78%. It becomes a significant impact to the CBD zone. So I'm just trying to figure out if that is an appropriate, if this is an appropriate, I guess, amendment to that zone, if it's going to change the tax rate.
And so maybe this is a question for Greg then. Greg, do you know how many existing buildings this would affect?
I don't. We'd have to do a count of the single story versus the 2-story and get that number.
Yeah, and kind of speaking to Councilmember Heyer's comment, I guess it also makes me wonder, you know, what's going on that different types of buildings have the different rate. And I don't know, you know, like, I guess I want to understand the whole issue a little bit more too. I don't know if it would change my vote at this very moment. However, yeah, I think it's something deeper we need to understand.
And I would agree with you, Chair Jaburka. I don't, it seems weird that some are taxed one way and some are taxed other ways. And I don't know if that opens it up to interpretation, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Just so I understand, that is the county that's setting those tax rates, and we could inquire of them what their formula is and what their policy is. I'm struggling whether it would affect my vote. I don't think it would at this point, but I do think we got to drill down on that and find out what the deal is. I don't know what we can do to change that, but we certainly ought to understand it.
Yeah, it seems like it almost incentivizes someone to add, if you have a single story building anyway, you know, if it's going to go down, it might incentivize that. I don't know, but maybe we want to incentivize it. I don't know. Any other thoughts from other council members?
I'll just say I tend to agree with Councilman Heyer. I don't think that's not our role to do that tax rate or to assess those, and that's the county's job. So though I would like to get information about it, I don't think it affects my vote or I think more for just information. It would be neat. It would be nice to have, but I'm fine moving forward.
But my point is if it's 100 buildings, I don't even know how many it is, but if it's 100 buildings and we're getting a commercial rate right now at 100%, the tax rate, and if we put a residential accessory, then we only get paid, you know, then it drops to 55% or 70 whatever percent. I don't know that. I think it may or may not change my vote, but I don't even know how many it is. I don't even know what, is it 10? Is it 100? Is it, you know, I don't even know. I guess that's I'm just throwing that out there. I'd like to make the motion to table it, at least until we have some more answers to the.
Sounds like a motion, and I will second that motion. I think that's probably worthy of getting that information before we take the vote.
Did you want to determine a date? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. If I could get some clarification on what you're requesting, that would determine how quickly we could get it back on an agenda. If it's just calling the assessor to find out how it's going to be taxed, I think that could be turned around fairly quickly, probably next week. If you are requesting some additional information, number of buildings affected, things like that, that might take some extra time.
So the question is whether we want to extend it, so then we don't have to set a specific date, or table it and pick a date that we'd like to table it to.
Or you can table it just out several weeks, and that would give time, and then we wouldn't have to deal with the extending.
Are we waiting on a developer or someone that is questioning whether they want to change their building, or is this just a change to the ordinance?
Just a change to the ordinance.
Personally, I would like to know, one, the tax structure, and then two, how many buildings that impact.
So I just want to make sure, I did hear a motion by you, Councilmember White, and a second by Councilmember Heyer. Was that official, or were you just discussing what you might do?
No, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I apologize. Just back to the beginning.
Yeah. And that's what I would probably like to know. I'd like to know answers to both of those questions. Probably the first specifically, the second half broadly. I don't think we have to know every building that is being used, but we got to have a sense of it.
So in the motion, do we need to say a specific date?
If the motion is to table, then yes.
That's what I heard.
Do we
So
want to go 4 weeks? Marcia, you okay with 4 weeks?
I'm looking at my calendar. So would that be the
That
15th
makes
of
September
September?
15th. And I guess I need to make sure if Mr. Montgomery's going to be doing some of the research, if that's enough time.
That would be.
So September 15th, table to September 15th.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember White and a second by Councilmember Heyer to table this item. Sorry, just 1 second. Proposed ordinance 2020-36 to the 15th of September. And is that a voice vote, I'm guessing?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So any more discussion about that item? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Lopez opposed?
Yes.
Thank you. I apologize. I kind of have to do it this way because it's hard to hear everybody separately. Was there anybody else that opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I apologize. Oh, and any abstentions? Forgot to ask that part. So you guys just throw me off my game actually doing something different. I appreciate it. So looks like that motion has passed with Councilmember Lopez. Did you want to comment on your no vote?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you all so much. Great. So the next item, also Greg Montgomery, who also we invite, we have the petitioner Sean Strong that's available too for any questions. And this is about the petition 2019-18. Welcome, Greg.
Welcome. So this is a request to amend the development agreement. And just for a background, development agreements are required when a zone is given a conditional overlay status. And back a few years ago, the property at the corner of 2nd Street and Wall Avenue was rezoned to R3 conditional overlay. As you see on this map, the location of that property. It did have a development agreement that then went with it. And over time, that development agreement has, the project has changed hands. And the present owner desires to move forward with that development agreement, but requires the amendment to look at a couple of things. One is, of course, the change of the developer's name. Very straightforward, simple thing, that the person who was originally involved with it is no longer involved. The new company, Park Ridge Incorporated, would be the new developer. Second would be a requirement of goes into the development agreement of 3 trees per unit to 2 trees per unit. This meaning 60 trees would be added to the property rather than 90. You would ask that we have some information from the urban forester, and I think that has been provided to you. He went out, looked at the site, and concurred that reducing the number of trees from 3 to 2 would be a much healthier situation, both for the trees and also for the amenities and the infrastructure of the site. That given its design, the tightness of the site, 60 trees would be much more doable than 90 trees. And then the third revision is that since this has been going on, the time frame has been ticking on the original development agreement. And so even though he's not been able to start, the completion dates are almost there. And so this will be changing those completion dates of what has to be done to complete the 30-unit development. Again, here's the site plan, and the urban forester talking about the reduction of the trees to the 62 per unit. And then the planning commission voted 5-2 to approve the development agreement. One no vote was because they did not agree in reducing the tree numbers. And the other no vote was because they were not in favor of rezoning the property to begin with and felt the project was still not appropriate for the area.
Any questions or comments for Greg? So then I'd like to invite Sean Strong, the petitioner, if he would like to make any comments.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just met with Damien out on the site, and he just concurred that probably the reduction of the trees would be better just for the infrastructure. And once again, just to reiterate, he did look at all the trees on site, and he thought none of them were worth saving. They're just in pretty bad shape. I can't remember the name he called them. I think they were Russian junipers or something like that. But I have corresponded with him a couple times over the site and the different layout. So.
Thank you. Any questions from council members?
One question that I read on my email is that some of the citizens are concerned about the traffic on 2nd Street, whether this would be a problem for 2nd Street to handle the amount of traffic that would be generated there.
So I guess in response to that, this consideration is not dealing with any of those items. This is only amending the development agreement. The approval of the rezoning to R3 and the existing development agreement set the traffic patterns and standards, and so there's not any consideration of any revisions to what has already been approved.
Does that answer your question, Councilmember Stevens? You might have frozen up a little bit, or maybe I froze up. No, everybody else is moving.
It's you. You're okay. It's him. He's froze.
Oh, well, wait
Maybe
a
he fossilized there. I don't know.
moment. Any other questions while we wait to see if he's able to connect?
I have a quick question, Chair.
Please.
So I'm just curious. I don't even know how to ask this question so that it sounds logic, but I feel like there are too many apartments and condos being built in the city, and I understand that we need that for the growth that we're experiencing. But I know that when we talked about housing in the past, I know that we also need access to homes that are priced right for single family homes, people that want to live in Ogden that also don't want to live in apartments or condominiums. At what point do we address this issue, this potential concern? And again, that's why I was a little hesitant earlier, because I don't even know that it fits with what we have at hand right now. But it's just the more I hear about these, all these apartments being built, it just makes me a little nervous. maybe it's not a question. Maybe it's just a comment and a little bit of venting there. So my apologies for the public venting, I guess.
Hey, that's what they pay us to do, right? Our public venting.
Chair, I'd like to kind of respond a little bit to that and agree to a large extent with Councilmember Lopez. It's been a huge concern of mine. As you drive around town, all of the 4 to 6 story cracker box apartment buildings that are going up all over the place, and you go drive around some of our surrounding communities, and they've got much nicer developments going in. Now, this particular project, there has been, I don't think, any less than 6 different proposed developments since I've been watching it. The community hasn't liked 3 or 4 of them at all. And this they've kind of at least acquiesced to a little bit, which makes me feel a little differently about this one. But overall, I think we've got to quit. We've got to change our mindset with respects to these type of apartments that are going in. I don't think it's healthy for our community. I think it's not our responsibility as a city to take the whole county's burden of small, cheap apartments. I think the other communities need to lift that lift a little bit on their own shoulders. So I think we've got to start thinking differently about this. So I know exactly what you're feeling, Councilman Lopez.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Councilman. And again, I'm not sure where the answer is. I don't know how the other council members feel. I'm not sure how the administration feel. I think I have an idea. But I just been hearing it from a lot of people, and I'm not blind to the fact that that's what happens to cities, like ours. Just a lot of people want to live here because Ogden is awesome, and people love these type of environments, and it's probably inevitable that we grow. But I think there are some conversations happening. I've heard through the grapevine that there are some conversations happening in the administration about these very topic, and maybe the administration has a comment about these. I don't know, but
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I guess
no, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment is just that I don't know if it applies to this particular item, although I appreciate the conversation coming up as we had already kind of discussed the zoning for this particular corner. I think that it definitely deserves a longer conversation because I'm hearing some things that are very concerning to me that makes it sound like renters equal bad community. And I don't agree with that in any way. I also think that there's folks in our community that need all different kinds of living situations. I do think we need some certain kinds of design standards, et cetera, but I'm not going to equate people that live in apartments with something negative because I don't believe it's negative. So that's just my comment, but I do think it definitely deserves a broader conversation. I think that some of the things that we have coming up, I would question whether they're affordable in a certain degree, or even if the apartments are necessarily affordable. So when you say there's really nice developments happening in other communities, I spent a good amount of the morning driving through our neighboring cities, and one problem I see with them is that they all look exactly the same. So you drive through one, it looks exactly the same as the next one, and that's why we love Ogden, is because it doesn't have that same kind of vibe. It looks different in many different ways. So definitely, probably for another conversation, another time. Any other comments about this particular item?
Well, Chair, I brought that same question up about a month ago. I guess when we were looking at this and others, I've noticed throughout the city, we have a unit on 12th Street, right over there behind Arby's, and we have one on 7th Street, right up from Wall Avenue. We have one going in right now, being built on 12th Street, about mid-block, right across from a housing area across the street from 12th Street. And I was concerned that we were using a lot of our land that could be used better in our housing mechanism. And Greg mentioned at that time that administration was concerned that our commercial areas, business areas, was being utilized for apartments and development. And so they put a moratorium. But I think with you, Chair, that we need to have a discussion on this, of what kind of standards we want to look forward to in going forward. We need to develop housing that will attract families and individuals to actually live here in Ogden and reside here in Ogden. And sometimes these apartments, they're there maybe 3 or 4 years and they're gone. So I think it's a healthy discussion to look at the many apartments that are going in the Ogden area.
Chair, and if I may add just quickly to what Councilmember Stevens just said, the reason why I brought this up, and I think the reason why they're bringing this up as well, even though it's not directly connected to this particular vote, it's indirectly connected, and it's making me uneasy about how I'm going to vote on this item because of these concerns that I have, and because because I wonder if that's a way to bring this up and elevate it to a point where we have more focus, in-depth discussions about these concerns that we have. Otherwise, I don't know when we'll get to have them. And I personally agree with you 100%. I am not saying in any way that renting is something negative by any means. It's related to other concerns that are much broader than that.
Yeah. I think we can ask Janine about, we are talking about setting up a strategy session for the council like we've had in the past. Those work sessions that are a little bit longer, more like strategy work sessions. This might be a good item for that discussion.
I can put that on the list. But Doug's right. There is an item moving through the process that, there is a pending ordinance in place and it's in this exactly to sort of slow down or halt some of the development in the commercial zones where the property could be better used. And I don't know if Glenn has any more information than that, but that's coming to you, in the next few weeks. But we can still have this discussion of land use if that's what you'd like in your strategy session.
Are you talking about what the Planning Commission is reviewing in their work session tomorrow, Janine?
I think, I'm not positive, but I think so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I was it perked my ears up when I saw that on the agenda. I'm going to be listening in on that one too.
Did you have anything additionally to say to that, Glenn? I don't know if you were trying to say something before.
Oh, no, I just was going to piggyback on what Janine had mentioned with that notice of pending ordinance. So I believe the Planning Commission is going to have their public hearing on the 2nd of September, if my dates are right there.
Right.
And I think we've got a tentative work session scheduled a week or two after that. The notice of pending ordinance is good for 180 days. That time period ends in the middle of October. So you'll have that work session next month, and then you'll have a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time to talk about that proposal before that noticing period ends.
Does
You
that
wanna-
sound? oh,
You
go
ready
ahead.
for a motion to give it a try?
I think
Sure,
we
and
need
yeah, just
public
so everybody
input.
feels like we can definitely have this longer conversation at another date.
Chair Chaburka, there's public input on this item.
Oh yes, sorry. Great. I don't know if there's anybody new. I apologize. I haven't been paying attention, Brandon. If you think there's anybody new, would you mind explaining how they might participate?
I don't think there are, but I will anyway. Yeah, if you're joining us via Zoom, you can participate in. It's not a public hearing. You can give public input to the council on this item by using the raise hand feature found at the bottom of your screen.
I'm a little confused. It looks like there's a panelist that has their hand raised.
Yeah, that is Jeremy Smith. Jeremy, you can unmute yourself if you would like to address the council on this item, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilman. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
State
So
your
the
name for
reason
Please state your name for the record.
my name is Jeremy Smith. I'm an Ogden City resident. This kind of hits home for me. I do live right by the Motel 6. It's now called New Vision, 1455 Washington Boulevard. With a hotel like that, we see significant amount of crime, drug use, trash being left in people's yards. So I have nothing against renting. I have nothing against multifamily. But as a resident who lives in a home in Ogden, myself and all of my neighbors would very much appreciate if multifamily homes were kept out of our neighborhoods. The issues that we deal with this motel, even though they're trying diligently to work on it, creates a lot of problems for us. There's a lot of fear in my neighborhood because of it. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Angel Castillo, the time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hello, Angel Castillo. I echo some of the concerns that Councilmember Lopez and Councilmember Heyer and Stevenson have put out in the fact that we really need to take a look at our design standards with regards to multifamily. I still stand firmly in the camp that we need accessible multifamily for workforce housing, the people that work at your Costco and your coffee shop or teach your kids. But at the same token, we need to be thoughtful about the development. If we're going to allow multifamily, it should be a good example for the community. It should be located along a transit line, and it should have some sort of housing affordability component built into it. So I'm a little torn on this one, as it is within the legal rights to build this particular developers that rapid cycle through properties just looking to make a profit rather than invest deeply in our community and hold property as stakeholders. So I'm going to ask you to think thoughtfully. I tend to side with the planning commissioners, but I also understand their concerns, and I understand the council members' concerns. And I strongly encourage you as a council to have an extended discussion about these types of things as we look forward to how we're going to solve our housing challenges, to allow people to have accessible housing, to save to buy a condo, to save to buy a single family home. And the only way we're going to do that is to allow affordable housing with regards to rentals. So thank you, and good luck.
Thanks. Any other comments for the council? I did see a phone-in caller just join, and I'm wondering if they know, what is it, *6 they need to hit, Brandon? I should know by now.
It's *9 if you
Oh,
wish
*9.
to raise your hand. That'd be the caller. Harvey Day has raised their hand and lowered their hand, but so Harvey, if you want to address the council, please raise your hand and keep it raised. For now, we will go to the caller whose number ends in 402. The time is now yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
I think to unmute, it might be *6 because I'm on a lot of these meetings.
This is Brent Baldwin. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for being late, but anyway, I was just concerned, and I don't know if this is part of the procedure. I have the property to the west of it, about 5.5 acres there. I live there. And I was concerned about the right-of-way road because it would be my only way into my property, and I'm just highly concerned about that.
Sure. Any other questions? Then we can ask how that works out. If you have any other comments or questions before we ask, go ahead and use your time.
Well, I was concerned also about the street parking, whether we would have signs up that would not allow street parking, because it's hard enough to get out of the driveway the way it is already right now. And I just can't imagine having 2 visitor parkings behind a garage, because I don't know. I've sit and pondered that for a long time, and I know that people are going to end up parking on the road because it's just what's going to happen. It's limited to 2 visitor parking places per unit. People have parties. It'll hit the road. I'm just concerned about that also. So I guess that's all I have. I didn't want to take much time, but they were my concerns.
And do you mind just repeating your name? I didn't completely hear it, and I'm not sure if the recorders did.
Okay, it's Brent Baldwin.
Baldwin.
And
Okay,
I live
thank you.
at 150 West Rear, 2nd Street.
Great. So we'll see if we can answer some of your questions. Thank you.
You bet.
I don't know, Greg, or if Sean, you would like to respond to those questions?
Well, I could respond. What Mr. Baldwin was talking about was a discussion early on when the rezoning is taking place. And in this project, the gravel road that gets access to his property will not have any connection to this development. So his access will still be provided. It'll still be separate and apart, and a fence will separate this development from his road that gets back to his property. So that's the first part. The second part deals with the parking. That was one of the issues that was talked about early on with this rezoning and development agreement. And the parking is being provided with the 2 parking stalls in the garage for each unit, and then the driveway being wide enough for another 2 cars to be able to park in that area. It's true there would be possible for street parking because the street is a public area that anyone can park in as long as it's clear from the intersection or driveways. Those will have to be noted as far as where that can park, because you can't interfere with access in and out of driveways and the visibility of the driveways. But the streets will have enough shoulder room that someone could park on the street and go into the development with those limitations of location of the driveway and location of the corner and turning movements.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any other comments? I saw that hand go up and down again, but I don't see it again. Okay, so now maybe we'll move on.
Chair, could I ask Greg one more question?
Please.
It kind of weighs on me. Does the development agreement list how these need to be platted? In other words, are they condominiumized so that they can be owned individually, or are they owned by the building, or how does the development agreement speak to that at all?
Oh, let me quickly take a look. See, that's where I've got to go back to the original agreement, because the amendment is not amending anything that deals with that.
Sorry to drop that on you.
Actually, it allows the option either way. It says be subdivided under a PUD or a condominium plat.
Okay, thank you.
So it gives either option.
Chair, I have another quick question.
Sure.
So Greg, there's a development of new homes that surrounds this area. What is the ordinance for trees in those developments? Is it required by a single family owner?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So we're just requiring that
On multiple family.
Any other questions?
Chair, can I ask Greg what the building materials they're going to use, or does that apply to this this part?
Well, that's not part of this, but that was in the original development agreement, and it's a combination of a brick and hardy siding.
Okay. And it's two stories, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Greg, and it's 40 units, correct?
30.
30? Oh, okay. Okay. I thought I was reading something that said that they changed from 30 to 40.
The original request was to do that, but then when he went to the planning commission, and that he was not going to get approved for that, he then revised it back to the original 30.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. So be happy to entertain any motions about this item.
Chair, I propose that we adopt the proposed ordinance 2020-37 approving the amendment to the development agreement.
Second.
So a motion by Councilmember White, a second by Vice Chair Blair to approve proposed ordinance 2020-37. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
This is difficult, but I'll say yes.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thanks so much for all of your work on that, Greg. And now we're going to invite Glenn Symes to talk with us a little bit about the reconsideration of the Airport General Amendment. That was fast. Your presentation was up. He was ready.
Sorry, you share your screen, your buttons move all around. So Can everybody see that screen okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, this is an item that's a little bit different than some of the other ones on your agenda. This is a reconsideration of an ordinance that you had actually adopted a month or so ago. So I won't go through all of the details of the proposal. I'm mostly just going to focus on the history of when the council reviewed this and just quickly talk about the part that was changed in this or for this agenda. So as you can see there, in May of this year, a couple of months ago, the council adopted the 2020 Ogden Hinckley Airport Master Plan. And as part of that, there were changes that needed to be made to the city's general plan, to the transportation section. So those came to you a couple of weeks after that. You reviewed those in a work session in the first part of June, and then adopted those changes on June 23rd. And after those changes were adopted to the general plan, there was some discussion among council members about some language specific to putting the terminal on the local historic register. And as that discussion took place, the council voted on July 7th to reconsider the adoption of that ordinance, and also voted to extend the item and then discuss that historic preservation language in a work session. And so you discussed that a couple of weeks ago on August 4th. The direction was given by the council to remove that language specific to adding or to placing the tower and the terminal on the local register. And so that brings us to today, and you can see, I don't know if I can get this, there we go. You can see this is in your packet now. So this has been updated. This section of the general plan amendments, the language that's struck through there, that's the language that pertains to the historic preservation, the placement on the local register. So as it's presented tonight for the council to consider again, that language has been removed from the proposed changes. So with that, because you voted to reconsider, this is essentially readopting that ordinance with those changes. And so this is how it's proposed. You don't need to make a note of anything in your motion if you are okay with these changes. Because we had to renotice it, there is a public input option available. And so you can take public input on this item and then vote as you see fit.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my mouse. Are there any questions or comments for Glenn before we have public comment? And I'm not sure if Greg had anything to say about it too.
No, I did not.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, I don't see anybody. So this is an opportunity if anybody would like to give any public input about this item. Some of the names may have shifted. Brandon, would you mind giving instruction?
Not at all. Thank you, Chair. Those of you joining us via Zoom, you can participate and provide public input to the City Council on this item by using the raise hand feature found within Zoom, which is a button found at the bottom of your screen. If you press that button, it'll put you at the top of the queue, and you will be able to address the council for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands raised, so I'm happy to entertain any other discussion or a motion on this item.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2020-26.
I second it.
Ooh. So I have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, and I think that was a second by Councilmember Stevens to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-27, and this is also a roll call vote.
I think it was 26.
Oh, sorry, did I say 20? Sorry, 26. Can't read. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka,
Aye, and that passes. Thanks, everyone. So now it's time for public comment on any topic. And I don't think we need to repeat the directions since I think they're all the same people. Thanks so much for your help, Brandon.
My pleasure.
So feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to make any public comment about any topic. Definitely state your name for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Heath Sato, the time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hello, everyone. Heath Sato, Ogden resident. In regards to today's work session, I was really happy to hear the mayor and police chief have already learned so much from the bias training that many begged the mayor to implement during his campaign last year. I only wish he had been more proactive instead of reactive on the issue. It may have saved a life. I would like to recommend that the program could be more effective if the bias training was done with actual officers that have bias training experience instead of non-officers. This type of bias training is used across the nation to great effect. And I wanted to use the rest of my time today to reiterate some of my concerns about potentially allowing a single neighborhood to remove itself entirely from the burden of our growing population pressures. Housing prices are skyrocketing here in Ogden, while wages have been virtually stagnant in comparison. The great promise of outdoor companies drawing in high-tech companies with better paying jobs has never been realized under this administration's tenure. I have concerns that I was not heard clearly last time, which I'll explain in a minute. So let me be clear. Are we a city or a mere collection of neighborhoods? If we are going to properly address rising housing costs due to our increasing population, we have to pull together as a city rather than merely acting as a collection of disparate neighborhoods following every localized desire with no guidance from the top. As discussed tonight, some of you say you don't want more apartments, but others are expressing pressures for more affordable housing, while also allowing huge pushback against ADUs. There's going to be growth and we need leadership on this issue when we clearly have none. Maybe this is because the community isn't being heard. I feel like I wasn't heard last time when the mayor said in his comments at the end of the meeting that, quote, there were some accusations taken at me. I didn't participate in that at all. It was the community. I sat on my hands and let the community around us decide what they wanted to do. I think those are unfair accusations, end quote. For one, I don't think it's the job of the mayor to sit on his hands and let every community decide independently what's best for the city as a whole. But more importantly, I want to be clear that no accusations were ever made. I was the only person to mention the mayor in public comments regarding the Southeast Community Plan, and these are my exact words, quote, I just wanted to say we have growing population pressures in Ogden, and by allowing a single neighborhood of our wealthiest residents, including the mayor, it places all the population pressures on the rest of Ogden, putting the burden on poorer neighborhoods, end of quote. Anyone can go online and listen to the recording. I only reference that he lives there. Again, no accusations of any sort were made, and I would like the mayor to address the concerns of our growing population before it is too late, rather than focusing on an imagined personal slight. Be proactive and less reactive. We need vision now more than ever. Thank you.
Thanks, Heath.
Amy Wicks, the time is now yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hi, Amy. We can't hear you. I don't know. On the Zoom, it looks like you're unmuted. There you go. Can you hear me? We'll see
Oh,
if,
we just lost her.
yeah, maybe she can call back in.
Okay, so with that, Harvey Day, the time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Oh, sorry about that. I was not expecting it to happen so soon. I am Harvey Day, longtime Ogden resident. So I have one question and then some comments about today's work session. So my question is, I'm wondering how we'll go about handling prosecuting restricted people who try to buy firearms who may not know they're restricted from purchasing a firearm. I think you kind of addressed this, Angela. Yeah, like how can we make that information easily and readily accessible so we're not criminalizing people who might not know they have some sort of restriction against purchasing a firearm? Second, on the outreach program regarding people experiencing homelessness, I think it's super important to try our best as a community to address the deficiencies that might exist in their lives and in the systems that should exist to help people stay in their homes instead of treating them or their behavior as criminal. We should acknowledge them as part of our community with compassion, empathy, generosity, and open arms. Another thought on law enforcement outreach programs, if we have a dedicated outreach program to try to help young and disenfranchised community members understand the nature of policing and why they might have negative views or relationships with our officers, do you as city council members understand why that negative relationship might exist? Do our law enforcement officials, do we as community members understand why that negative relationship might exist? How can we ask our law enforcement officials to meet the community halfway on sharing the responsibility of ensuring a sense of trust and respect? Shouldn't we instead be closely examining the culture of policing within our community? Is it unfair to put the responsibility of understanding a difficult situation on a child who is experiencing that difficult and potentially traumatic situation? Should we not all feel responsible for how our law enforcement officers are handling situations involving our most innocent and vulnerable citizens? Lastly, there's a lot of renters in Ogden. Can we please, please, please not paint all of us as second-class citizens? None of us are second-class citizens. We all pay for property taxes in the buildings that we rent from. We're bearing the costs of upkeep on the buildings. We're responsible for other people's financial investments being profitable. Oftentimes people we don't know, and sometimes people who don't even live in the state. Thank you so much for your time and all that you do as city council members. I yield the rest of my time.
Thanks, Harvey.
Okay, Amy Wicks, let's give this another shot. The floor is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Thank you this is Amy Wicks, Ogden City resident. Thank you for that second chance. I had a technology failure.
Don't worry about it.
I'm contacting you again, reminding you that we still don't have a recycling program, that people still have blue bins, that they are diligently taking out to the curb. Some people still thinking that things are being recycled when it's being taken to the landfill. Last week, I mentioned that there were several pages on our city website that had not been corrected, that still led people to believe that we were recycling. The mayor offered a rebuttal indicating that that had been fixed. Actually, it had not. There was a brief mention of it in a kind of news flash section of the website. It's not Google indexed. It's not where people would look for recycling information. I sent an email to all of you, council members and the mayor, with the specific links, asking that to be fixed, and crickets. I've heard crickets, nothing. It looks like somebody's taken the effort to fix that, but there are still some pages on the city website that may be linked from other pages. I'm not gonna look into that. I don't have time for that, but you may want to have somebody, one of your multiple communications people, look and make sure that there are no errors on the website still indicating that Ogden City is recycling. That PDF that has recyclable materials still is up on the city website and is still searchable. So you may want to fix that. I also want to comment, as other people have, regarding renters. Renters are not bad. There are a lot of renters in our community. We want quality rentals for them. For us to think that we're going to get a bunch of new single-family homes is absurd. Those new single-family home developments that you're seeing are going into what were once empty fields. And it's short-sighted for you to not look to the future with the projected population growth. I don't know where you think the growth is going to come if we don't have some higher density. And those can be, condominiums, apartments, things that people can own or rent. But the single family home on a quarter-acre lot is not our future. And it's not something that's an option for us. We're pretty much built out. So I would like you to take that into consideration and maybe have some sort of strategy session discussing what you think our community could look like in the future. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy.
Angel Castillo, the time is yours. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. Good evening again, council members. I'd just like to echo some of the comments that I made earlier on a particular project, is that I'm really pleased that you're looking to have a discussion about housing as a council, because it is within your purview to be able to help us as a city plan long-term to allow people to have accessible workforce housing. And when I say accessible workforce housing, I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about first-year nurses. I'm talking about grad students. I'm talking about adjunct professors at Weber, basically people who are making less than $50,000 a year. And it's important that we allow those people to be able to have homes or apartments or condos that they can afford that doesn't take up to 60% of their monthly income. I know we want those people. I know I want those people. I want people who come out of Weber to be able to stay here. I want people's children to be able to stay here once they graduate and they have student loan debt. And I totally hear some of the other council members' concerns about shoddy looking apartment buildings. I am 100% on board with the fact that we need to tighten up our design standards, and we need to make sure that if we're going to have multifamily housing, that it's quality multifamily housing that is environmentally sound, that uses good development practices for green buildings and located along transit lines so that people have access to that and don't have to be in their cars. And people that we have the ability to keep our seniors in their homes. They have to be able to move into different housing if they're aging out of a 2-story big empty house. Where are they going to go? We need to make sure that we have that answered with appropriately designed and placed multifamily units, accessory dwelling buildings. Maybe look at the exploration of tiny homes. We need to be talking about this now before we can't make any movement. And I really appreciate that the council is willing to sit down and have that discussion. And I look forward to hearing that. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Any other comments? Okay, well, seeing none, are there any comments from Mayor Caldwell?
No, just say I appreciate everybody's participation and their thoughts and comments on this, and I have nothing to add on that. So thank you.
Is there any comments from council members?
Here, I have a couple of comments. You know, we spent, I don't even know how many hours talking and learning about housing, and I am really excited to continue that conversation. I think one of the things that's really frustrating to me is that we all talk about growth. We all talk about needing more, but we don't know what that more is. We don't know what that, and I think Councilmember Lopez, you know, what is more? Do we need more, you know, 40% AMI, 60% AMI, 80% AMI? Do we need more missing middle, you know, housing, those kind of things? And I think, so if we're going to do a strategic planning session, I think this is a prime opportunity to talk about what is the answer to more. You know, most of you know that I'm really data driven. And I think if we had that answer and if we knew that goal, when this kind of development comes up and they say that we're going to do 30 units versus 40 units, what does that make a dent? Does it make a dent that we're going to put, you know, residential behind commercial buildings? We need to figure out what that more is. And I sometimes I get really frustrated because we hear the word, we just need more, we need more, we're going to have growth, we need more. What is that more, and where are those at? And I think if we knew that, and I'm glad we're going to try to get that, you know, those answers, and maybe through a strategic plan. But we spent many hours discussing the data behind the housing. Now we need to move on the second side of it. So I just get really frustrated sometimes because it's easy to use the words, we need more, we need this, we need ADUs, we need that. We don't know how many we need. We don't know what that means. We don't know if that makes a dent or not. And I get really frustrated sometimes. So you're hearing my frustration. So I appreciate that we're going to have a
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Councilmember White. And I guess to me too, I feel like when we did all those hours of work, I did feel like we got mixed messages a little bit. And I wonder how we can bring that all together, because I do feel like there's differing opinions from different stakeholders about what those numbers are, you know? It seems like it to me.
Chair, yeah, I'd love to kick in now. Those hours and hours that we spent on those housing discussions, I was a little disheartened in some of the public comments tonight that I don't vilify, and nor do I see them as second-class citizens, renters. I mean, I spent the first several years of my married life as a renter. However, it's got to be acknowledged that renters are different than homeowners. Homeowners kind of care if the paint on their house is painted, but renters, it's not their job to know. There's just some differences, and you know, you do have to have a mix. My concern about the homes that are being built now, or the apartments that are being built, is that as soon as, you know, a couple moves in there and they have a child, they can't stay there anymore. They've got to move, and there's no place for them to move in Ogden. It's hard, you know, I know this from my own children. When they have a couple of kids, they're gone. They aspire to live somewhere else because the housing stock is better there. Now, so that's what I echo a lot of what Marcia says. I think we do need to know what is it that we do need. But I also maintain that we are carrying a lot of the weight of affordable housing that should be distributed throughout the county, and it's just not. And so I think we've got to take this to a broader scale discussion. You know, the legislature did a bill a couple of years ago that did put some pressure on communities to have an affordable housing component, and some of our neighboring communities are stepping up to the plate for that, and I just think we need to help them. We've been down the road a lot further than some of them have, and we need to help them to know what to learn what we already know. But so those are the things that I think I wanted to say about this thing. I don't think renters are bad. I don't think that at all. In general, certainly some are, and some homeowners are. I don't think that just because they're renters they're bad. And I hope we didn't hope I didn't convey that in my thoughts, but anyway, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Heyer. I guess to me, I guess I would rebut that just a little bit and say then it sounds like a landlord problem to me.
Well, it can be. I
Yeah,
think it can be.
yeah, they're supposed to be keeping up I mean, they have renters and they're in charge of the property, right?
That can be the problem, is if a landlord just kind of just owns the thing and is just trying to rake in the dough and doesn't care what's going on. That's a problem. That is
I mean, ultimately, it's
their
their
problem.
property.
That's a landlord problem. Right.
Anyway, any other comments from council members?
Chair, if I could take a few minutes. It's refreshing to know that we're going to talk about that. I think we've talked about it many, many times, but I think we really need to drill down and find out exactly what our housing situation is. And as been mentioned before, if we can get numbers and get projections and so forth, that would help us out. Our economic development department goes to great measures of trying to invite companies to here and to improve, bring businesses into the Ogden area. And we need to be conscious of what type of housing are we going to present so that they can actually live in Ogden. If it's the type of housing that they cannot live in Ogden, they go someplace else. And someone says, well, they may come and buy things and purchase, visit our restaurants and that. But if they're residents, they have a more a greater stake in how Ogden's going to look. And so it's refreshing to know that we're moving in that direction. And going to be discussing that. I hope that we can come out with some pretty solid information in that capacity. And I'm sure our council staff will have that type of viewpoint. Now, I've emailed and made suggestions, and I'll make another suggestion tonight, is that I would like to maybe develop a joint resolution between the council and administration on wearing masks. This is not a mandating a mask. This is just saying that we support the wearing of masks so that we can prevent the spread of this virus. And that is being proactive. That is being in the leadership role, and it's the right thing to do. And I would admonish us to maybe look at that and move forward in trying to develop that type of a resolution so that we can say, yes, we think it's a good idea to wear masks, but it's not, we're not going to force you to wear a mask, but we think it's the right thing to do to wear the mask. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments? I guess Vice Chair Blair or Councilmember Lopez, or if you have any comments.
I'm fine.
Thank you. Just double checking. Don't want
Yep.
everybody to feel left out.
I would never feel left out.
Great. Well, I guess the last comment I would just make is I do appreciate Amy following up on the recycling issue. I believe it's on the agenda to have it revisited in next council meeting. And I do appreciate knowing about the links that lead us to the places that aren't updated. I did notice that the main page was updated, which I really appreciate, because people do, when we start kind of, if they hear from a friend or something, oh, they're not recycling, they're going to go and look at our website to find out what's happening or what's up. So I do appreciate that. Not everybody is up to date on all the happenings in the recycling world. So I appreciate that update's going to happen next week. And I do apologize. I'll be calling in next week. I'll be on the road, and so Vice Chair Blair's offered to facilitate this meeting, so I really appreciate that. And with that, I'd be happy to consider any motions to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody, for your participation.